This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
Broadcasting live from the Capital TV studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
That's nice. You got a little preview of me there earlier. Seth Merrow here with Racing Across America here on a Saturday morning, and admittedly, it's kind of a slow day in Racing Across America. I think the How's Hope is a little bit interesting with Malagasy and Irish War Cry, but other than that, it's a little bit slow. We do have some nice stakes action from Sam Houston tonight, and we will preview that a little bit later in the show. Towards the end of the show, Martha Clausen from Sam Houston will join us. And so again, if you're watching racing tonight, some nice stakes action coming from Texas. A little bit earlier, Justin Nicholson from EquestriCon. They kind of changed up their plans for 2018, and I thought we'd catch up with Justin, one of the founders of EquestriCon, and see what's on tap for this year. First, before we move on to our first guest, I do want to thank our friends at Gulfstream Park for their sponsorship of this program. Gulfstream Park. Champions start here. But at the top of the show, I thought, again, on a kind of a slow day, it was a good opportunity to look a couple of weeks back and catch up on what happened out in Vegas, the National Handicapping Championship, because, of course, this year, after a hiatus of, a year or two, Capital OTB now has the monthly contest that will lead to one lucky OTB contest player going to Vegas at the beginning of next year. So I thought it was a great opportunity, again, to talk a little bit about the NHC, and who better to reach out to than Peter Thomas Fornatal, the contest correspondent for the Daily Racing Form. Pete, good morning.
Good morning to you. Yes, it is a slow day in racing, but it's been a crazy time in the contest world. Recently, we had 3 consecutive weekends with major contests, including the NHC, including DRF's World Championship of Handicapping, and I'll throw in the Pegasus contest as well as other big news that's been going down in the world of contests. Always a pleasure, Seth, to come on here and chat with you.
Yeah, and I want to talk about a few of those and start things off with the NHC a couple of weekends ago. And before we get into specifics, I just want to get into the atmosphere, and I'll tip my cap to you because about a week and a half ago, I was on the radio with Steve Bick, and I tipped my cap to him. And it's funny, he's been broadcasting now from there for, 3 or 4 years. And I told him the last Sunday of the contest, I got done here on television, drove home, fired up his radio show. And you think, radio show at a horse racing handicapping contest. How compelling can that be? But he does a great job, and I've tuned in for the last 3 hours. You sat in with him. Duke and Paul Matisse were there for part of it. And my feeling is, you got a ballroom full of like-minded people, and they're talking about, you believe the ride the 3-horse got, and the 7 is interesting in this race. And Duke and Paul were talking contest strategy. Yeah, the 7 may be the most likely winner, but you know what? If we were at the final table, we'd play the 5-horse. And just as a horse racing fan, it is really compelling and very entertaining. Give us a feeling what the ballroom is like for the 3 days.
It's an amazing experience, and I would say as a horse player, put it on your bucket list for sure to try to get out there. We go through our lives, and people talk to us whether we work in the industry or horse racing is our passion, and you're at a cocktail party and someone asks you what you like to do in your free time, and you say, I like to play the horses. And we're all sort of used to getting, if we're lucky, somebody might say, oh, that's interesting. And then there's other times where they look at us like we have 6 heads. And so to go from that, where sort of marginal place we can play in society. Now, granted, it's a little different in the capital region where you are. People get it a lot more up there, but it's still something very special about being able to go to a place where everybody shares this thing that's so important to you, whether professionally or personally, or in the case of someone like myself and Steve, both, where people just get it. And as a result, it's something that many horse players say, hey, I want to get back here every year and participate. It's really the closest thing we have to a horse players convention. And thanks for the kind words about Sunday's broadcast. It's a lot easier to be good on the radio when you've got such great partners and guests. And you mentioned the Matisses, but we had so many people stopping by, Chris Larmy, Jonathan Kinchin, my co-host on the DRF Players podcast, so many people making positive contributions, and I hope to get to do it again. And if folks want to hear those last few hours, I agree, they were pretty interesting. You can hear them on Steve's website, stevebick.com, and check that out. But no, it's really, for a horse player, an experience unlike any other.
Yeah, and I said it to Steve, and I've said it many times. I just, time-wise, it's hard for me to carve out enough time to play in as many contests as I would like to. Usually I jump in, maybe find a time for a couple a year. I think from the experience I have, if I played in enough of them, I think I could get the trip to Vegas. So maybe I have to just carve out some more time, because I'd love to come out there. As I say, it's infectious listening to you guys. And yeah, the people you had cycling through, really, really a lot of fun. Talk a little bit about, as I say, I listened to that last 3 hours, and the final table, there wasn't much movement, but again, it was compelling just to kind of figure out as the races went, as the horses went into the gate, they would announce where everybody bet, and it was just kind of fun to see the strategy.
Yeah, it was a testament to how cool the final table format is, that it was as interesting as it was, because let's be honest, more or less nothing happened. It was very odd, but the way the strategy broke down and the way that the boards themselves were, it strategically, I feel like players played correctly for a lot of the way along. So much of the money's at the top. There were people either reaching for big prices or jockeying for a little bit of position, but there was really no significant movement in that top 5 on the leaderboard, which is really where all the money is. But it was still a lot of fun just to follow along. And Chris Littlemore, who'd had such great days on day 1 and day 2, had really gone cold on that Sunday and had not picked a winner until the very last race. But he ends up going out in style. Littlemore, the second straight Canadian winner of the NHC, and really, to me, the kind of player who represents every horse player. He really is devoted to it as a hobby, a sharp player. He's been there many times. You can't qualify for that event the 4 or 5 times that he has without knowing what you're doing. And my favorite part is that he proudly handicaps with just a pen and a paper DRF, which was music to my ears as a DRF guy.
I was going to bring that up because, again, Steve and you had him sit in after he won and talk a little bit about how he did it and how he handicaps and whatnot. And, of course, that contrasts with Duke and Paul Matisse, who are professional players. And one of them makes trip notes, and one of them does the speed figures, and so they play all year long. And of course, Paul won a couple of years ago out there and brought the big check home to Ballston Spa. That was a lot of fun. But this guy says, yeah, it's just, I look at the racing for him, and he said, I'd like to see him out on the track and see if they're focused, so a little bit of physicality as well. But I think if there are people out there who are kind of thinking, I'd like to jump into the contest world, but boy, some of these guys are really sharp. If you're a regular player like Dave Littlemore, or Chris Littlemore, excuse me, and you're just using the racing form, you can do it.
Absolutely. There's so many different paths. We see people, whether it's their own proprietary software like Duke and Paul, or folks who use Thorograph or other commercially available software, or those who just use DRF but are more devoted to the Formulator or Timeform US programs. There's a lot of different ways to find winners, and no matter which way you choose, you'll find somebody like-minded out there in that ballroom in Vegas.
And it really comes down to it has to be your day or your series of days. And I don't mean the once-in-a-lifetime kind of thing. I mean, if you're a regular player, you don't win every day. It's more like a bell curve. You have a few bad days during the year, a bunch of days in the middle, and a few very good days. And so you want to match up those good days to when you're playing contests. But it doesn't always happen. And I think Paul Matisse, great example of that this year, where I guess right until like Saturday midday maybe he was doing pretty well and then went a little cold, so he misses the final table, but then comes back on Sunday and wins the consolation contest in a fashion that, had he made the final table, he probably could have won the whole thing given what he did on Sunday. But it just goes to show there's kind of some vagaries to the game that you just got to keep plugging away.
Oh, for sure. And it does, the strategy does change in contests. You'll see a lot of players taking more risks, and very often in contests you'll see the best players obviously at the very top, but also sometimes at the very bottom, because they're staying aggressive and they're trying to win, and they're cognizant of the fact that so much of the money is at the top. When you look at the top three, Littlemore in first wins $800,000 in the Eclipse Award. Keith Fenton runs second. That's $250,000. Garrett Skiba, and there's a good side note on him, runs third, collects $125,000. Tom Noon, the other six-figure casher. But it goes down rather quickly to where, even in 10th, I mean, believe me, it's not nothing. 10th, my buddy Dan Hart cashed for $50,000, and then 11th, I think, is $25,000, and then it gets very flat from there. So it makes sense that you're going to take chances, and it's sort of unfortunate for Paul because Saturday night at the end, he was trying to make some real moves and get up firmly into that top 10% to continue to play on Sunday. If he just picked winners, he would have made it to Sunday, and then we saw what he did on Sunday, just playing the horses that he liked. So a little bit to second guess for our friend Paul Matisse, but he was still in good spirits and kind enough to come on and do the show with us. And I think he just understands, especially as a professional horse player, that's just the way it goes sometimes. You can make the right decision and get the wrong outcome, and the most successful players are just going to focus on making good decisions, and then at the end of the year, everything should work out more or less anyway.
Well, it was also funny listening to Paul and Duke. Paul, in particular, after the last race, and Chris Littlemore wins, by picking the winner, they were both kind of saying, yeah, but he picked the wrong horse.
It was really interesting, and I talked to Paul about it afterwards. What they were saying, and I was thinking this too, is that Chris would have had the protection of that number 4 horse anyway. But it's not that simple. It is possible because it's a win-place contest. So had the favorite had a long shot run second with that same horse, it is possible that Fenton could have caught him with that horse. Both Paul, Duke, and I all thought that between the chalk in the race being live and the fact that that horse, who was 5-1, projected to come down to 9-2 or even 4-1 looking at the Will Pays, we all kind of thought it was the wrong play. But when I thought about it after, it did make a bit more sense. And another thing to note is that those players at the final table have to make that decision with 3 minutes to post.
Oh.
So at that time, also, the horse's odds were a little higher. So, yeah, Garrett Skiba, who ended up also with the winner and not getting enough to pass Keith Fenton in second, was the same situation for him, where he was essentially drawing dead, at least if a favorite was going to run second. So there's a lot of strategy and game within a game. But the shout-out I wanted to give to Skiba is he becomes the first player in handicapping contest history to have 6 six-figure cashes in tournaments. And I thought that was really cool and worth giving a special shout-out on the show.
There was also the quirky situation with Paul winning the consolation as a guy who won the consolation and won the top prize. And I guess Chris Littlemore had won the consolation in the previous year.
Yes, I don't remember if it was which year it was, but he's definitely a previous winner. So you went to having 2 players in the same year achieving that sort of bizarre and interesting accomplishment of having won both tournaments, with Chris and Paul now both having managed that feat. Another super impressive thing is Duke Matisse in this contest, and this is his. He was at the final table the year Paul won, and then a semifinalist over the next 2 years. And I talked to him about why this tournament suits him so well. And I think the test of playing the 6 or 7 tracks, for many players, that's overwhelming. For Duke and Paul, part of their success, I think, comes down to the fact that this is what they do every day, and the sort of collective, the handicapping kibbutz that they've put together enables them to have great information at a variety of racetracks and has definitely led to their success in the event.
Yeah.
A lot of stories to come out of the NHC, and I'd be remiss if not mentioning John Rowe, Seth, who I had the pleasure of writing about in the pages of DRF, and I encourage people to go to either the main DRF site, or maybe the easiest way to find it is to go to tournaments.drf.com and click the tournament news drop-down. John is new to the contest world and had a harrowing year with some health difficulties, and worst of all, lost his son Joe to a car accident. Had an amazing first 2 days, and his goal was to make the final table, and it was looking like he was going to make it at the start of day 3. By the end of day 3, his score was suffering. He was down to more or less his last play, and was handicapping a race at Fairgrounds, and saw a horse called Miss You Joe, Joe being his son's name, betted the horse out, liked the horse, played the horse. Horse wires the field at 12-1 and gets him a seat at the final table. And that story spread quickly, and the world was with him and rooting for him, and didn't end up winning the big prize, but made a lot of fans and accomplished his goal. And I was very happy to get to tell his story in the pages of Daily Racing Form, and I want everybody to check it out if they can.
Oh, that's incredible. And over the 3 days, I know Jenny Reese was also covering for the NTRA, and she put out some nice stories on some of the participants. You know, ballroom full of people. There are plenty of great stories out there, and will continue to be so again next year. And as I say, Capital OTB will send a participant that will allow us to root for yet another local out there, hopefully next year. But Pete, before we let you go, a couple of minutes left, and I just wanted to, you alluded to it a little bit earlier. I know the Daily Racing Form kind of shifted your attention a little bit to something new this past year in the contest world, the DRF World Championship. You have some online contests that feed into that, and the first one was, about a month and a half ago? How'd that go?
It was right before the NHC, and it was fantastic. Ended up being the largest purse in online history and the largest winner's share of $138,750 out of that went to the winner out of the $555,000 purse. Best thing of all, Seth, no takeout in the finals of the DRF World Championship of Handicapping. The winner was Frank Polk, tournament veteran from Oklahoma City, who I also had the pleasure of talking with and interviewed for DRF. But we are running feeders and qualifiers pretty much constantly with the feeders, and then every other week or so with the qualifiers. That might be a good one for you to take a look at, between the no takeout in the finals and the ability to play. You know, as fun as it is to travel for these contests, and the camaraderie is great, I'm not going to lie about that, but the convenience of being able to play for big money with no takeout from home. Folks should definitely take a look at getting involved in the World Championship of Handicapping. You can qualify for it exclusively at tournaments.drf.com. Host of other games on there right now, including qualifiers for Keeneland, for the Horse Player World Series coming up fast, another big Vegas mythical money contest. And we've also, and this might be of particular interest to local players, the Gotham Day contest we've got a qualifier for this weekend. Just costs $60. You can win with a favorable ratio for players your $500 entry to the live bank contest and come down to Aqueduct and play. That's a great one for people looking to get involved. Obviously people listening to this show, watching this show, they're going to have the local knowledge of the New York horses. That's an edge. But it's also kind of nice to play the first time with a $500 bankroll. That's within a lot of people's comfort zones. And then you build up to playing at Keeneland, where it's a $2,000 bankroll and a $3,000 entry overall. It's kind of nice to start small and build up in the contest world. And we've got, whatever your interests are, we've got a game for you at DRF Tournaments. You can find us, tournaments.drf.com.
And I'll also let you plug, you talked a little bit about this earlier also, the DRF Players Podcast. You and Jonathan Kinchin typically. When does that refresh every week, and how can people listen and watch that?
Absolutely. You can get that wherever you get your podcasts. The biggest ways would be iTunes or SoundCloud. You can also get it directly from drf.com. If you follow me on Twitter, where I'm at Looms Boldly, I'm often posting the links as well. We go live typically Tuesday and Friday from 11 to 12. The Tuesday show, we recap the weekend previous. The Friday show, we typically look ahead. We answer a lot of questions from listeners, especially people with contest questions. We always try to get to those. But just handicapping and racing in general, we just love to talk horses, and we love our listeners. So please tune into the DRF Players podcast. iTunes, again, probably the easiest way to hook up with us, but really wherever you get your podcast.
Sounds good. Pete, as I say, I wanted to reach out to you as the contest correspondent for the Daily Racing Form and get a little more info about that NHC. As again, Capital OTB Monthly now having a contest that will feed into that, but also talk a little bit about the DRF contests because those are a lot of fun as well. And folks, you can get in for all kinds of price levels. And I say this a lot of times, and you kind of mentioned it earlier, you have to think a little bit differently, and it kind of gives you a new angle on handicapping the contest play. And so highly recommended. Thank
you so much for letting me come on and talk contests. Anytime you're hard up for a guest, give me a shout.
We weren't hard up. I went right to you. I wanted to talk NHC. I said, who? It's Peter Thomas Fornatale. Pete, appreciate it. We'll talk again.
Thank you, my friend.
All right. Peter Fornatale, as I say, you can check out his work in the Daily Racing Forum, writes regularly about the contest scene. So check that out. We'll take a break. When we come back, Justin Nicholson from Equestricon. Again, they're changing things up a little bit this year, moving out of Saratoga down to Louisville for a little test drive down there around Breeders' Cup weekend. We'll catch up on what's new with Equestricon right after this. A little bit later, Martha Clausen, big day at Sam Houston, big night, actually. We'll talk about that a little later on. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
It may be cold in the Northeast, but in South Florida, the action's hot. This winter, be part of the championship meet at Gulfstream Park, where the fields are deep and the payouts are big. With some of the most competitive turf racing in America, Gulfstream Park is your winter destination for the finest in championship thoroughbred horse racing. And if you're looking for the top jockeys and best trainers, you'll find them all at Gulfstream Park. So play it today. Gulfstream Park. Champions start here.
What if there was a way to become a better horse player, to have a better knowledge of the game, to be more successful? What if there were a way to take what you've learned, what you know, and make better decisions, better choices, to know how to connect the dots? In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool, but not the only tool. Race results and replays, past performances and live streaming, wagering from all your digital devices. These too are important tools, and you'll find them all right here at Capital OTB. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
In a recent study of some of the top online wagering sites, Capital OTB won big in total player rewards, far surpassing some of the best-known wagering sites in America. While other rewards programs simply offer you points redeemable for gift cards, Capital OTB's rebates are paid to you in actual cash. Plus, Capital OTB gives you full and immediate access to your money. So if all you're getting now are points and gift cards, join Capital OTB Player Rewards today and get cash back. Visit CapitalOTBBet.com and sign up today.
This is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. As promised before the break, happy to be joined now by Justin Nicholson, one of the founders of Equestricon, along with Katie Sharp and Dan Torgman. Good morning, Justin.
Good morning. How are you?
Very good. I've been wanting to reach out to you for, a few weeks now. You guys introduced some new plans for 2018. Of course, you kicked off Equestricon last summer up here at Saratoga. And before we get to the change of venue, the new plans for this year, let's go back to last year a little bit because, an event like this, I think guys like you, the founders, I think you have to be looking out 2 or 3 or maybe 5 years to kind of tweak things and make it work. And it's not that year one doesn't wind up very well, because I think it did, but I think you just have to get the fan base involved and word of mouth going. And so I'm just interested, coming out of year one in 2017, I saw all 3 of you that weekend, and I was on a panel and I walked around the show floor and visited some of the other panels. I thought it went very well. Talk a little bit about how you all felt year one went, and what the situation was going forward coming out of that.
Yeah, no, I think we had a very good first year. Obviously the kind of metrics you look at. I mean, we had turnout, I think, around 2,000 people, which for a year one event we were pretty happy with. I think the big thing for us was kind of going to the exit surveys we did with everybody, and we had a bunch of responses with thankfully, I mean, obviously everybody, you ask for constructive criticism, which we got, which we'll, I can kind of talk about a little as well. But I think that the big sentiment was, 90 to 95% of people said we'd love to be able to come back. We'd recommend it. All those kinds of things, and I think that's probably the most important feedback you can get, is that people enjoyed it enough that they're putting it on their calendar, or they're keeping an eye on it for next year. As far as like some of the things, I think that we're hoping to, we are adjusting. We just had a lot of content. I think we had 25 panels or thereabouts, and probably the biggest, kind of complaint, which we take a little bit as a compliment, though we understand it's also a legitimate complaint, is they couldn't be everywhere at once. So we had a ton of interesting material, a lot of interesting speakers like yourself, and the blessing and the curse of that is that if somebody's got interest to multiple areas, and the panels are running at the same time, it's awfully hard to make that work. We've tweaked our structure a little bit. We're doing fewer in number, but a couple more kind of big ones, and then we actually have introduced this year more of a TED Talks format as well, as kind of our other way to get speakers in the space. So it'll be individuals going up and speaking for kind of 10 or 15 minutes about a story or something that's important to them, and hopefully delivering a bit of a life lesson or a pitch or inspirational message, whatever it is. But the idea would be to kind of get people to talk about their experience in racing more intimately with an audience. So we're kind of trying to take the lessons we got from last year and make the experience even better. But overall everything we thought was very good, and we were thrilled with the venue and with Saratoga and with everything that went with it. And obviously we'll talk about the change-ups a little bit, but everything was very good for first year.
Yeah, I agree completely. As I say, I saw all three of you and complimented you. I thought it went very well for year one. And until you mentioned it, I didn't remember, but I thought exactly the same thing. Oh, there's another panel I want to go to at the time I'm sitting in on this one. And so that change up will certainly be beneficial. But as you say, that's complimentary. That's saying people are interested and into it and just want to take it all in. So that tweak will be nice. The TED Talks thing is kind of interesting. But yeah, let's get to 2018. It was, a couple of months ago, you all announced there would be a change up for this coming year. A little bit of a date change, but you're going to kind of team up with the Breeders' Cup. You're going to be down in Louisville. Talk a little bit about the decision-making process and what the plan is for 2018.
Yeah, I think, admittedly, we were kind of caught off guard ourselves in a sense. I mean, we were very happy with year one, and like Saratoga was great to us, both in terms of the town and the people and everything about it. I think, we came out of our first event really thinking to ourselves, why would we do anything significantly different in year two? We want to make sure we get everything kind of just right and all that kind of stuff. But we had some talks with folks at Breeders' Cup even before the event. I think they really enjoyed it. They had representatives there. We had some internal discussions, and I think it probably took another month or two after the event to really start to think about doing anything different. But the kind of thought behind it was, we had a decent amount of success with year one, and I think we really wanted to make sure that this had a chance to be kind of a national event. And when we had the opportunity to start to work, hand in hand with an organization as kind of forward thinking and established as Breeders' Cup, it was pretty hard to not at least go down that road with discussion with them. And they've been a great partner so far. We're kind of working together to really make EquestriaCon part of the festival leading up to the Breeders' Cup. It's meant to have kind of a Super Bowl fan fest feel to it, where we really kick off a week's worth of festivities. And I think it's a great honor to be in that position. But we obviously, like you said, we want to be a national event, and that will certainly, in our mind, always include Saratoga as one of the real racing capitals of the U.S. and a place that we go every summer.
And I'm assuming, as you say, being tied in with the Breeders' Cup is great, but that they're at Louisville this year probably played into it, because I'm sure you want a venue that, like Saratoga, pulling in racing fans from all around the country. The Breeders' Cup does that as well, but in Saratoga, in Louisville, you also have a core group of locals who are complete horse racing nuts.
Yeah. Certainly our goal. You can imagine with our decision to go to Saratoga in year one. Obviously our goal is to go where the racing fans are, and there's no doubt in our mind that Louisville offers that opportunity to us. It includes both the racing crowd around Churchill and the kind of more horse country, horse farm crowd in Lexington that's an hour and a half away. So I think we're obviously going to an area where there's an established fan base. But we hope that the momentum from year one and any kind of word of mouth we can get out there and around will bring people in who maybe didn't even hear about it in year one.
Well, let's toss out there. Breeders' Cup obviously is a Friday-Saturday event. Where, if people are thinking about going down to the Breeders' Cup, or maybe just go for EquestriCon itself, Breeders' Cup Friday and Saturday, where are you going to fit in that calendar? Where will you be that week?
Yeah, so we really kind of kick off the week. So our actual convention dates on site, kind of like last year we did, where we had some satellite events on Sunday, but our convention itself will be Monday, Tuesday in the Kentucky International Convention Center, which is right downtown and next to the Breeders' Cup Fan Hotel, actually connected to it, the Marriott. And that is, it's all about 10-15 minutes from the track. There are 2 dark days, Monday and Tuesday, so we kind of get the chance to bring everybody in from the racing community in Kentucky, which we're very happy about. I think basically the way the festival is looking, from everything we can say at this point, it looks like we are for the most part kind of the festival goings on for Monday and Tuesday. So we're hopeful that between our own audience and pull and like I said, some of those exit survey results where a lot of people said they would even potentially travel for it the next year. Between that and then having kind of the work with Breeders' Cup and also with Churchill Downs, it's been very, very helpful as well and cooperative along the way. I think we can pull together a national audience and maybe just try to get them to make their Breeders' Cup plans a day or two earlier than they would have otherwise.
And if they're making EquestriCon plans, I know you have a website, of course, equestricon.com, and certainly advise people to go there. Are we at a point where people can buy tickets already, and are speakers being listed there? I'm sure as you get closer and closer, more of that kind of thing will be added. But the content on the website right now is?
Yeah, we're not far off. Right now, the website's pretty much just kind of your basic information. I would think a schedule in some form, as well as tickets, will be probably between mid-March and mid-April. I think tickets probably on the latter end of that. But we're, internally, we've got a lot put together. We've got a lot of, I think, really exciting announcements coming up, and we really hope we can kick off things at the level that makes sense to go with an event like Breeders' Cup.
And we will certainly be plugging you in as some of those announcements are made, because again, I know a lot of people from this area enjoyed going to the event, and I would assume, given that the conversation I have at the end of the year with the fans here at our Clubhouse Racebook and just around the area, I know we have a lot of folks who typically go to the Breeders' Cup, so I'm sure they'll make an arrangement to go a little bit earlier this year. So as I say, we'll plug you in as things kind of firm up, but I did want to give people a head start and kind of let them know the venue had changed, and maybe think out towards the end of the year to adding that to your Breeders' Cup week. Justin, again, congratulations to you and the team on a really nice kickoff in 2017 up here in Saratoga. And we wish you a lot of good luck going forward as well.
Thank you very much, Seth, and I appreciate you, getting the word out about it.
That's what it's all about. Justin Nicholson from Equestricon. Again, you can go to equestricon.com for more information, and that will fill in over the next couple of months or so with ticket information and whatnot. So highly recommend it. If you didn't make it up in Saratoga, again, as they say, it was a lot of fun. Like talking with Pete Fornatale about the National Handicapping Championship for a couple of days up in Saratoga. A lot of like-minded people just discussing horse racing. It was a lot of fun. Louisville Breeders' Cup week this year. All right, before we go to a break, I just wanted to mention, because the news came out earlier this week, of the 2018 finalists for the Hall of Fame. Really nice class, and things changed up a little bit differently this year. I'm just going to read from the press release here. Hall of Fame voters may select as many as they believe are worthy for induction to the Hall. All candidates that receive majority approval, 50.1% or higher, will be elected to the Hall of Fame. The former rule was it maxed out at 4 new additions. This year, there can be as many as the voters choose from. I believe there's a list of 10, but it is a really good list of horses and humans that have the potential this year. I'm one of the voters, so I'm looking forward to getting my materials and digging into this. But among the horses, Blind Luck, Gioponte, Havre de Grace, and Heavenly Prize. Blind Luck, of course, 12 wins from 22 starts, 6 grade 1s. Gioponte, 12 wins, 10 seconds, and 29 starts. He had 7 grade 1s. Havre de Grace, of course, won the Woodward, defeating males. Havre de Grace was also, as well as the older mare in 2011, was the Horse of the Year. So, again, a really quality group. Heavenly Prize, also on the list of finalists this year. 9 wins from 18 starts. 9 of the wins of Heavenly Prize, grade 1 events. Robbie Alvarado, on the human side, Robbie Alvarado has been named a finalist. $214 million in career earnings that began in 1990. That ranks him 13th on the career earnings list. 208 graded stakes, 3 Breeders' Cup races. The regular rider of Curlin as well as Mineshaft. Robbie Alvarado also riding titles over the years at Fairgrounds, 4 riding titles at Keeneland, a couple at Oaklawn, Arlington, and Churchill as well. Also, Corey Nakatani on the list, a winner of just under 3,900 races, $233 million in career earnings, puts him 12th on the all-time career earnings list, 340 graded stakes races. Corey Nakatani has won 10 Breeders' Cup races, just a fabulous career there. Also, he's the regular rider, one of my all-time favorites, Lava Man. Won 5 grade 1 races with Lava Man. Also was a rider on Serena's Song, Corey Nakatani. Craig Perret, outstanding jockey, named an Eclipse Award winner in 1990. He was also the leading apprentice in 1967. Leading apprentice by earnings. The Eclipse Award for the apprentice, I think, didn't come until 1971, but 1967, Craig Perret, the leading earner apprentice. Won the Belmont Stakes with Bet twice. Again, number of riding titles at various tracks, Arlington and Monmouth. Grade 1 wins for Craig Perret include the Acorn, the American Derby, the Ashland, the Carter, the Coaching Club, American Oaks, Florida Derby, Haskell, Hopeful, Jerome Handicap, etc., etc. Mark Casse on the training side, also a finalist this year. He has done it up in Canada a number of times. He's won the Sovereign Award a record 9 times. That, of course, the equivalent of the Eclipse Award up in Canada. But he's up now for an Eclipse Award here south of the border. He's a winner of 12 training titles up at Woodbine. He's won 4 Breeders' Cup races. Trains, of course, the very talented World Approval, who is still racing, as well as Tepin. Casse, a finalist this year. John Sheriffs, the trainer of Zenyatta. Certainly just that alone, a winner of 13 grade 1 races was Zenyatta. She won the 2009 Breeders' Cup Classic, and of course Sheriffs won the Kentucky Derby. I remember this because I bet on this horse Giacomo at 50 to 1. John Sheriff's a finalist, and finally David Whiteley, unfortunately passed away in 2017, but won over $11 million, trained Weah, also trained Coastal to the upset victory over Spectacular Bid in the Belmont Stakes. So again, it's a really, really nice class of finalists this year. It is announced, I believe, in April. I think the materials go out. I'm just kind of seeing if I can pull it out of the voting panel gets the materials on March 1st, and yeah, they're announced on April 16th. So we'll know on April 16th who gets in, and then the actual ceremony Friday, August 3rd, at the Fasig-Tipton Pavilion up in Saratoga. So again, the finalists announced a little bit earlier this week for the Hall of Fame, which again changes up this year. Voters can vote for as many as they want to. Anybody that gets over a majority is going to get in. It'll be interesting to see what the Hall of Fame class looks like this year because, again, really quality group of finalists. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, Martha Clausen, big night at Sam Houston on this Saturday night, the Maxim Gold Cup among the stakes races. We'll talk about all of that right after this. Stay tuned.
This is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Sign up today for Capital OTB's handicapping series and plan your trip to Las Vegas.
In a recent study of some of the top online wagering sites, Capital OTB won big in total player rewards, far surpassing some of the best-known wagering sites in America. While other rewards programs simply offer you points redeemable for gift cards, Capital OTB's rebates are paid to you in actual cash. Plus, Capital OTB gives you full and immediate access to your money. So if all you're getting now are points and gift cards, join Capital OTB Player Rewards today and get cash back. Visit CapitalOTBBet.com and sign up today.
Funding your Capital OTB bet account is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Easy Money. Clearly the fastest and easiest method of depositing funds into your account. Make deposits or withdrawals in just minutes. 2. Green Dot Money Pack. Gives you instant access to your funds. Green Dot Money Packs are available at thousands of retailers nationwide. And 3. MasterCard Visa. Simply click on the link from the funding page, enter your account information, and fund your account. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Whoops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. As promised before the break, we're going to take a look at some Texas action for this Saturday night. Sam Houston, nice stakes card. We have Martha Clausen on the line. Good morning, Martha.
Good morning to you, Seth.
Happy to talk to you a little bit about Texas racing and Sam Houston. Again, nationwide, it's a little bit slow today, but that's great for you guys. It works out for folks particularly playing a little nice racing. Nice stakes card tonight, capped by the Maxim Gold Cup. We'll go through all of those stakes in just a moment. But first, just give us a little overview. What's the Sam Houston season been like? And for folks who are maybe playing the undercard, jockeys and trainers they might want to take a look at?
Sure, of course. Yeah, we began our meet at the end of January. Unfortunately, second weekend where we had our Houston Ladies Classic, we had glorious weather. Since then, rain,
Yeah.
unfortunately. But hopefully, it's let up a little bit. There's maybe a 30% chance this evening. Hopefully, we will be on the turf. But yeah, the meet's been going fine. We have a wonderful turf course. We call it the Connolly Turf Course, named after the late governor of Texas, John Connolly. He was pretty much instrumental for getting pari-mutuel racing passed in the Lone Star State. Sam Houston was the first Grade 1, Class 1 track to open, and that was in 1994. So we're going into our 25th year. But Texas is tough, Seth, as you probably know. You know, we're surrounded by states that have casino gaming, and
Sure.
we've never been able to get it passed in Texas. So our purses, unfortunately, it's tough. The only thing that brings really quality horsemen back to our track is the excellent track surfaces we have, our main track and our Connolly turf course. So we're looking forward to tonight. As far as some of the leaders, Lindy Wade is our leading jockey. You might have remembered him. He's kind of started years ago in Chicago. Arlington Park had a terrible injury, almost life-threatening injury, but came back, and he's been riding a lot in Oklahoma and in Texas. He's a very nice young man, a very skilled rider. Iram Diego is second in the standings. He rides first call for Steve Asmussen, and if you're riding for Steve anywhere, you name the circuit, you're probably doing pretty well. So he's a very good rider. Quincy Hamilton, he's had 3 previous leading rider titles here. He's in 3rd place. And Lane Luzzy, real nice young man and the son of Mike Luzzy, is in 4th place. This is his first time at Sam Houston. He's doing very well for himself. Trainer-wise, of course, Asmussen, Mr. Hall of Fame on top. He's won 9 titles. And then Carl Broberg, who's amazing at claiming and running all over the country, is in 2nd. And a couple of our female trainers, Mindy Willis and Carrie Craddock, round up the top 4 in the standings.
All right, some names people can look for tonight, maybe around the undercard, but not just the undercard, during the stakes action as well. Let's jump in. The Houston Sprint Cup, 6 furlongs, kicks things off in race number 6 tonight. That'll be about 9:20 our time. This one's interesting. There's a Broberg horse in here in Seavow. The Brett Calhoun horse, Super Mason, 2 races back at Remington, ran really well, and then threw in a little bit of a dud last time at Sam Houston, but it wouldn't surprise me if that horse bounced back with Lindsey Wade on board. Chivarelli, it's Tom Morley. For those of us up in New York, we're certainly familiar with Tom. Of course, his wife Maggie Wolfendale, the commentator on the NYRA circuit. And we broadcast live from the backstretch during the Saratoga meet. We'll typically have Tom and Maggie on during the season. But Martha, while we talk, I'm going to pull up a race from December 16th at Remington Park. We're going to watch number 9 Counterforce win, and win pretty easily. I've liked Counterforce throughout the career. Now, this was a nice win. Subsequently went over to Oaklawn and tossed in a dud, but tossed in a dud behind Wilbo and Ivan Fall an awful lot. So I think maybe an excuse for that race over at Oaklawn. So as I say, I've liked Counterforce for a long time. Maybe I'm a little bit married, but that one intrigues me tonight. What are your thoughts in the Sprint Cup?
Yeah, this is going to be a very tough race that's coming up because here's the deal. I'm not. I'll be honest. I'm not crazy about the one hole in our sprints. I think the outside posts are a teeny bit better, to be perfectly honest. But anytime, look at the breeding. The horses by Smart Strike already won $272,000. A dud from Asmussen at a different track surface doesn't really throw me. But then again, it doesn't exactly overwhelm me. I wouldn't, if he goes off at odds less than 3-1, I wouldn't be biting on that. I think there's a lot of horses in there that could really be factors, and I do like Chivarelli. Tom Morley was nice enough to speak with me. I do the racing notes for Sam Houston. He's nice enough to speak with me, and he hasn't had this horse for too long. He just claimed him, but he was really impressed with his speed at the Laurel Stakes back in January, and he thought this would be a good spot, albeit he admitted a softer spot. He said it might be a softer group to run against, but that's okay. That's what horsemen do when they're sizing up their opportunities. But he just felt like the horse was running well, and he's never been to Sam Houston. This horse has never been to Sam Houston. He's currently at Fairgrounds. He's banning in today. A lot of the horsemen will do that. But I do like Chivarelli. One other thing I could tell you about a Super Mason, Brett Calhoun is huge when he sends his horses over to Sam Houston for stakes races, and he still has tremendous connections with a lot of the probably the top breeders in Texas. So he, Valor Farms, for example, and he'll come over and he'll win with quite a few horses. Super Mason, you got to understand he's 6 years old. He has, of all the tracks that he runs on, Sam Houston is just not his top track for some reason. This 6th place finish is not unusual for him. If you look at his wins, back-to-back wins at the Premier Stakes up at Lone Star, but then look at the Spirit of Texas and some of the others. He'll hit the board, but he doesn't love the Sam Houston surface the way some of the other Calhoun horses do. So, I'm not sure I'd take such a short price on him. One of the interesting long shots is number 8, Wit's Dollar Night. Let me tell you something. This is a nice horse. He's a Texas bred. Unfortunately, in some of these stakes races, the Texas breds get overlooked. but he was 26-1 in the Spirit of Texas, and same race that Super Mason won, and he rallied off the pace under one of our riders, Ernesto Valdez Jimenez, and he came in second to Ima Bling. Nobody was going to catch Ima Bling that day. That horse was on fire. Staten Fleury has that horse. Quincy Hamilton rode him on fire. Nobody was going to catch him. But, the Wits Dollar Night at 20-1 might be an interesting horse. Maybe he's not going to win, but please, bettors, put him in your exotics, because I would not be surprised to see him go off at another price this evening.
I like it. All right, let's move on to race number 7, which is the Jersey Lily Turf. They're going to go 1 1/16 on that nice grass course. Before we went on the air, you noted the weather. Right now, the sun's shining, so fingers crossed that we stay on the turf tonight, correct?
Yes, fingers crossed. I mean, they had 2 turf races on the turf last night, took them off because of the heavy moisture, but it didn't rain yesterday, and it has not rained today. And right now, it's like the sun is sneaking in and out. It's warmed up to about 70 degrees. I'm pretty sure, unless there's something that was unforeseen in the radar, that we'll be able to stay on the turf this evening, which will be really good for these 2 turf features.
Yeah, the Jersey Lily, again, another nice little field in here.
Nice.
Tommy Proctor has a proud reunion in here. Yep. You always have to pay attention to Tommy Proctor.
Right.
Special Rock Star ran a good close-up second last time to Storm Quillity. And in fact, we're going to pull up that race at Sam Houston on February 9th. Storm Quillity is going to be the number 1 horse and win by a neck over Special Rock Star, who is the number 3. Rumgo from Mike Maker also is a little bit interesting to me, just I think because of the Mike Maker name, but at 12-1, a little bit of value there perhaps. Your thoughts on the Jersey Lily?
Yeah, well, Storm Quillity is the defending champion of this race, and, always underrated. It's kind of interesting about this mare. She's 7 years old. I don't know what the deal, why she's very well bred. She's Kentucky bred. I don't know, but she doesn't get a lot of respect, but she's going to be a factor for sure. And then, as you said, Rumgo, so interesting. Mike Maker sends in turf horses. And, he's won 5 of the last 6 editions of our Connolly Breeders' Cup turf. He just always knows. The man is just a genius when it comes to these turf horses. So, when Rumgo came in for that race, really just completely dull effort, just was 3 wide. I don't know if it was the trip or whatever. But I've got to tell you, at 12-1, he could really, she could really sneak in. And it's funny sometimes with the big trainers, the Asmussen and the Brett Calhoun and the Mike Maker, they go off at really short odds. But Brett Calhoun on our card for our Houston Ladies Classic had this Texas-bred horse that literally, I cannot believe it, paid $90. It was a maiden that just ran a huge race. And, so every now and then you have to say, wow, maybe they're sitting on a sleeper. A little bit of a rider change. I don't know what happened to Rumgo that day, but, you never want to discount the chances of Mike Maker. But the other horse that I think is really interesting, and I was very, very interested in the 15-1 morning line. Take a look at number 9, Zip It E. This is a nice mare. She's a Texas bred by Golden Song. Wayne Sanders and Larry Hirsch. Oh boy, those are 2 powerful. That's a very powerful partnership. They've done well in Texas and nationally. And it's interesting because she's a stakes winner, multiple stakes winner at Sam Houston. And look at her overall turf record. She's been, she's won 2 of her 4 turf races. Brett told me that he thought when they were first starting out with Zippity that she was going to be the best turf horse in the stable. But she just got a little bit off form. They ran her up there at Indiana Grand. She did not like that turf surface. So basically, the Yellow Rose that you saw back in January was supposed to be on the turf, but we had heavy rain and took it off. So she won, she's won that before on the turf, and she can run an off track, which I don't think it's going to be. But, I love the fact that she's 15-1. I think she's got a real shot in this race.
I like that. Interesting. All right, let's move on to the Maxim Gold Cup. Again, there's a couple of stakes races, but the Maxim Gold Cup is slid in at race number 8. It'll be about 10:16 our time up here in upstate New York. $100,000 up for grabs, a mile and an eighth. Nice little field of 6 in here. Social Misfit goes out for the always potent Carl Broberg. Net Gain, I think, has some solid numbers coming into this. Hyperdrive, to me, was also a little bit interesting. Going to make a turf to dirt move. But I pulled up an Oaklawn race from February 10th. The winner will be number 4, Blue Ridge Track. Traveler. This was on a sloppy track at Oaklawn, but just a couple of nice races over at Oaklawn for Blue Ridge Traveler for Ken McPeak. 6-5 on the morning line. But again, the question mark is, was that number fired last time a little bit helped by the sloppy track? Albeit there are similar numbers underneath on fast tracks as well. So it looks to me like maybe it will go through Blue Ridge Traveler, but what are your thoughts on the Gold Cup?
I totally agree on that one. I mean, it's a 6-horse field. We've had 6-horse fields before. The year that Red Rifle won, it was a six-horse field. But, you know, it's quality runners. I kind of size this up race by the elders taking on the youngsters. And I think Blue Ridge Traveler might be having the edge in this competition. He's 4 years old. You know, talked to Kenny this week. This is a horse that had tremendous potential in his 3-year-old campaign. He ran second in the Grade 3 Spiral. Then he had some issues, and he had to tail off. He had to take care of the horse, and he didn't come back until Keeneland in October. So, you know, that's a significant layoff. But then, you know, he really started doing well, and that Kenny was super impressed with the Oaklawn prep for this race. You know, I don't think it mattered. He said that horse likes moisture. He could go, you know, turf. He could go turf. I mean, he could go long or short, and he can handle any track surface. But he's very, very comfortable. He wanted to try a mile and an eighth, and that's why this race intrigued him. He thinks the horse can get it. And I think, you know, I asked him about the trip. I said, "Do you think the horse has to be on the lead? Should he be coming off the pace?" He said, "I'm leaving it up to Channing. You know, he's 4 times on the horse and pretty much hasn't ever missed an on-the-board placement when Channing Hill has ridden that horse for Kenny." And, you know, Kenny's a smart guy. He picks his spots right. I mean, he put something on Twitter this morning about all of his horses in and the stakes horses. He has his choice, but I think he felt like this would be a good opportunity. Of course, he has won the Maxam before. It was several years ago, 2013 with Unstoppable You, and then the next year when Red Rifle won, he ran second with Frack Daddy. That was that 6-horse field that I mentioned. So Kenny kind of looks around and he knows, but he likes the Sam Houston track conditions and the track surface. And I think, you know, I think if you're going pick 4s, anything like that, that's a logical single. Normally, I don't like to talk people out of throwing in other horses, but I just think he's going to get a nice trip, and he drew a good post, and the horse seems to be really, really rounding into form.
Yeah, I'm a numbers guy, a buyer's guy, and it just looks like he has an edge on most of these, except maybe Net Gain, but it just seems like Blue Ridge Traveler maybe in a little bit better form. All right, we wrap up.
Net Gain, I was just going to say Net Gain is a little tricky because he ran in the Connolly, and, you know, anybody that looks at, you know, just turf wasn't his deal. But, no, if he's going to get some action, but, you know, I think the race goes through Blue Ridge Traveler.
I'm with you. Stakes action wraps up in race 9. 9:44 your time, 10:44 our time. The Houston Turf for state breds going a mile and a 16th on the turf course. And again, nice little fun field in here. FJ Uncle Vic. I thought the race 2 back was pretty good, albeit an off the turf event. But at 20-1, I might look at him a little bit. Carl Broberg has Don't Blame Dexter. Mujab Jr., I think if you look back at the 2 turf races, the 2 most recent turf races, which are 3 and 4 back, that horse is a very good fit. But I pulled up a race, Sam Houston, January 27th. We're going to look at number 3, Mav Master, win that race. That's going, that was an off-the-turf event on a sloppy track. But if you go back to the race 3 back at Remington on the turf, this horse does very well on the grass as well. So we're showing the race in an off-the-turf event, but I think there's good grass form for Mav Master. What are your thoughts in the Houston
for
turf?
Sure. I'm glad you brought up Mav Master because that's a horse, you know, I'm very, very keen on him. First of all, Carrie Craddock, the trainer, you know, maybe national racing fans aren't as familiar with her. She's very, very good at Oklahoma and Texas. And believe it or not, she might be 4th in the standings, but she's winning at a 40% clip. What do you think of those numbers? I think it's pretty darn impressive. And one thing I love about this whole thing, Hal Browning, her owner and breeder that she trains for, this is the 3rd generation of these Hal Browning horses that she's won stakes with. She started with a mare, you know, a couple of years ago, and then she went into Annie Savoy, who is the mare of Mav Master, and now Mav Master. So Carrie Craddock, 3, you know, progeny together winning these stakes races. It's pretty cool, I think. And, you know, what she did last time, she wasn't sure that Mav Master could get a mile and an eighth. That was the distance of the Richard King. But, she was on the rail, and I was watching her, Seth. It was so funny, and Carrie was just screaming her lungs out. And, of course, Lindy, what a fabulously timed ride to come off the pace and to close just at the right moment. So shortens up a little bit. The horse is very versatile on turf or dirt. Drew inside. Carrie says all systems are go. So it's a nice race. I'm hoping sentimentally, and I tend to do that, because I just love the history of some of these horses and these people that have supported Texas racing. So I'm rooting for Mad Master for sure. I love that you mentioned FJ, Uncle Vic. That horse comes to that win. That horse just hits the board in all kinds of races, making his 53rd career start today. But it's a great group of people that get behind that horse, and they love that horse. So it'd be nice to see him do something. Special praise, probably going to, the number 5 horse is probably going to get a little bit of attention. He's a 7-year-old. And he's done pretty well on the turf up at Remington Park. His trainer, Alan Dupy, was one of the first riders when we began our meet in 1994. He was one of our inaugural riders, and now he trains horses, and he's done pretty well with this horse. Special praise.
Yeah, again, it's a nice, fun field to cap off the stakes action. 4 nice stakes down at Sam Houston this evening for folks who are playing a little night action. Pay attention to that. Martha, really appreciate the visit and the conversation. Wish you and everybody a lot of good luck down at Sam Houston this evening.
My pleasure, Seth. You guys have a great weekend. All the racing fans, thanks for your support.
Appreciate it. Martha Clausen from Sam Houston. A little bit earlier, we talked to Justin Nicholson from Equestricon. Again, a little shift in venue this year. They're tied into the Breeders' Cup down in Louisville, but gave you a little head start if you may be thinking about Equestricon and or Breeders' Cup for this season. And we started things off with Peter Thomas Fornatal, a little recap of the NHC a couple of weeks ago, because again, Capital OTB with the monthly handicapping contest will be sending a lucky patron, winner of the monthly contest at the end of the year. The top player will head to Vegas in the early part of next year. So I thought it would be a good opportunity to recap the contest from a couple of weeks ago. So it was a fun show this morning. Do want to remind you that today the Villa Valenti Pub in Troy, there's a Fan Appreciation Day. Swing on by and enjoy all the festivities and promotions at the Villa Valenti Pub in Troy. Give us our chance to say thank you to you for your patronage. Also, Bet 50, Get 50 continues. Only a few days left to the month, but sign up for a new account. Bet 50 in before the end of the month and get $50 put into your account. Thanks to our friends at Gulfstream for their sponsorship. Gulfstream Park, champions start here. All right, I'm going to step away. Fun show this morning. I'll be back in an hour and a half or so to fire up a little OTB Live for Saturday afternoon. Looking forward to it. Also, congratulations to our friend Dick Powell and everybody on the team yesterday. Dick came in with a bankroll, and he took a swing at the end of the day. He had built the bankroll up from $500 to $800 plus, and so he took the $300 profit and took a nice swing on a horse at Gulfstream at 3-1, which would have allowed him to wind up with about $1,700. Unfortunately, it didn't happen, but still had the $500 split among all the players. So everybody walked away with a nice little chunk of change for the bankroll yesterday. So again, congratulations to Dick and the bankroll team. All right, I'm going to wrap things up for this edition of Racing Across America. But again, stay tuned. In a little while, we will be back with the Saturday edition of OTB Live. We'll see you then.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.